So fine, you're going to argue that, well, height, that's within the realms of physicality, that's different.
Can I say something?
What about women who want men who are funny, but they're not funny
I'm
themselves?
hilarious.
Again, that's not a moral standard or a moral value that you would look for in somebody else.
Your promiscuity, your degree of promiscuity is behavioral traits in the same way that being funny or humorous is a behavioral or personality
So then you could
trait.
say that the promiscuity from the man side is also the same.
And the promiscuity reflects
women are
values.
totally within their right to not want to partner with a man who is promiscuous or who has a promiscuous past.
Yeah, and I think it does reflect on values, which play a big part in relationships. If you don't share similar values with the person that you're trying to be with, it just doesn't really work out in the end. So if somebody disagrees with promiscuity, then they disagree with promiscuity.
But the reason
That's fine,
it's
but
different for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you look back at biology and evolutionary psychology, the man's whole goal is to spread his seed as far and wide as possible. You look at a woman, she can literally only carry one baby at a time, right, from one man at least, right, unless it's twins, triplets, but from one man for a period of 9 months. It's literally completely different from a biological level. Number one, it's very different. And then number two, when you look at the emotional impact, men are very oftentimes able to separate emotions and sex. Can we not all agree that women are a little bit more emotionally invested in their sexual encounters
Absolutely.
than men are? Therefore, a woman who has slept with 100 people is going to affect her mentally, spiritually, emotionally, far more than it ever would a man.
That's also just making assumptions.
I feel like
Well,
that's a
you
whole
can
other
call it a
conversation,
generalization,
too.
but on the balance of probability, meaning at least 51% of the time it's true. And when you need to make good decisions about your life, you look at things like the balance of probability, statistics, right? This is an emotionally mature thing to do. So it's not unreasonable for men to be able to do that. And also pair bonding is another very important topic that I saw somebody bring up, that for women after 10 bodies, there are statistics that show it is actually very difficult for her to devote herself to one man ongoingly for a long period of time.
No, I'd say that it permanently.
I don't think that's
That is not true.
No. I'd say that it permanently alters the way that you perceive relationships, and going into relationships, it just permanently alters things.
So you don't think that it affects men in the same way,
I
and
do
it
think
doesn't
that it
alter
might
their
affect
perception
men
of a
in the same way.
relationship?
It does
also?
apparently, but after many
men
more
don't
bodies.
really have
Wait.
emotional
But so
attachments to the people
you're
that
literally sitting here and acting, oh, men should spread their seed. Men should spread their seed.
I
Do
don't think
men
she
not
said
have self-control?
I don't think she
But
said
there's a
that.
Literally.
We have the
biological...
biological inclination.
Yes.
Oh, biological this, biological that. I don't care. I
So
don't
you're
care.
saying that women can't biologically also want to have casual sex with men?
Biologically,
No, now
back
honestly,
then
that is a
women were
biological
having babies at
I
like
think
15,
Biologically, we're not supposed to be
we're
monogamous.
way behind that.
I think
we're
she's-
way behind that.
I think she's
I talked about that
I
one,
think
yeah.
she's communicating her points in like the most primitive sense. Primitively
But we're not
speaking.
primitive beings anymore.
That was
Yeah.
one example. I gave two other examples
We've
as well.
evolved.
One of them was based in biology and evolutionary psychology. I gave two more that are actually very relevant to current times. I was trying to be
I mean, I don't know.
diverse
I've got
in my
more than 10
perspective.
bodies, and I don't have an issue being monogamous or having a
Me
partner at
either.
all. And I don't know any other woman that has that
Exactly.
many
I would
bodies
say
that has
that
an
it-
issue
but
being
it
with a partner
affects-
in a monogamous way.
Well, there are studies about it. You can read about them. If it doesn't apply to you, then that's wonderful. But
Okay, and I don't
there
think it
is
applies to a
empirical
lot of other
data
women.
that
Yeah,
suggests that the opposite is actually true. If that doesn't affect you, then that's wonderful. And I do believe that there is kind of like a biological adaptation that's occurring right now because women have been much more promiscuous. Just like adaptations, biological adaptations happen over time. So it could be true that that is starting to happen. But I would say
So if there is a biological adaptation, then shouldn't men adjust what they're looking for, and shouldn't purity not
It comes
be as
down to
adamant
preference.
because now there is a biological adaptation
comes down
from
to
your
preference.
I'm not
point of view.
saying that I didn't say there definitely is. I say that there likely will be if we continue down this road of being very, very promiscuous. Then likely that will happen because that's just what happens with biology. We make adaptations to the world around us, right?
Right,
Is
so
that
they should
necessarily a
adapt.
good or a bad thing? I mean, who's
I
to
mean, I
say?
got it. Men should change what they're saying. I mean,
Wait,
what they
what?
think.
What
Men
about-
should not
what
want
about-
purity
what
culture
about
if women
women
are allowed to
change
be more
what they're
promiscuous because of
doing?
biological
Exactly.
adaptation.
Thank you.
Wait,
What
what?
about women change what they're doing rather than men what they're saying?
Why
do we have to
women have to
change?
change what
Hey,
they're
Can
doing?
you
I
let me
will
finish my
say-
sentence? I think women can change what they're doing, and also men could change what they're doing. It's like it goes both ways.
Essie, go ahead. What were you gonna?
I was, since we're speaking off of personal experiences, I was just going to say that, like, for my entire life, I thought that because I had...
Oh, cut off.
Alvin Sam
One second.
donated $100.
Yeah, thank you, Alvin.
According to the Institute for Family Studies, promiscuity before marriage reduced marital quality for women but not for men. Men and women are different. Women do not want male virgins because she values his experience.
I was actually going
Double
to say that.
standards.
Yeah,
Based.
like,
There's all kinds of double standards.
Yeah.
Some benefit men, some benefit women.
I would like a guy who's experienced in bed, though, personally. So I can kind of see that.
Go ahead with your point.
Oh, I was just going to say, for my entire life, I thought my feeling of the level of emotion that I felt with my sexual partners, I always thought that people had always told me you should be more prone to having casual sex and hookups. Like, you shouldn't be so emotionally in-depth and connected to your sexual partner, until I realized that that's totally a normal thing, and that actually it's the opposite, that you probably, if you're, you know, not really feeling an emotional connection with your partner, then there's probably something wrong at that point, sexually.
Word.
I mean, I don't think that, I mean, like, I think it should be up to women whether or not they choose to have casual sex, right? I mean, you can definitely feel that way. You can have emotional connections to your partners and choose not to have casual sex. That's absolutely fine.
Well, while it's up to women, it is also up to the men to judge them, or anyone else for that fact to judge them. When you make a decision, expect to be judged. And if that decision is sleeping with 16 people,
That's nobody's business, though. That's
Wait, but
that's nobody's business. That's between you and your current partner.
and everyone else you sleep with.
There is literally
never
one
know.
marker
Sleep
that
with what?
determines whether casual sex doesn't affect you, and it's being a male. And there are studies to point this out. You guys don't have to believe me. You can just look
I'm
up the
just saying.
studies after. It's okay.
I just define casual sex.
Yeah. I also just think if you're expecting something in your partner, that you should also emulate that as well. And I think that it's kind of ignorant to assume otherwise.
Well, no,
But
no,
you don't,
I've
you don't
been-
think that there's asymmetry in what men and women find attractive in the opposite sex? Like, for example, you'll hear a lot of women say, I really like funny guys, but like, they're not funny.
Oh my gosh. You men always think women aren't funny. Like, that is like a that is a problem.
That's not what I said. I'm just saying, like, a woman who herself, let's just look, just give me the benefit of the doubt here. Let's take a woman who's
No,
just
wait.
not funny, and
Hey, wait.
would it be wrong of her to want a guy who's
Wait,
funny
Brian,
just
Brian.
because she's not
I
funny?
think
What
that's a
about a
com-
woman who's looking for a
that's
tall
so
man who's
different.
short herself?
Well, she rejected
Again,
that
again,
argument because
it's
it's
a
about
physical
physicality.
thing. That's
Physical
completely
Can I say something?
different.
It's funny that you bring that up, because actually, like, evolutionary, like, again, talking about this stupid book, women are, like, the asymmetry in looking for a partner, we're actually genetically supposed to look for someone opposite to our genetics, for, like, to look for somebody tall, somebody strong, somebody funny, somebody that's opposite of us, for, like, the best, like, outcome for offspring. That's why, like, women, there's, like, was a study of women who are on birth control. We actually find partners that are, like, too similar to us, and when we're off of birth control, we're more attracted to,
Right.
like, partners that are the opposite.
It's not usually that they're similar, but usually women are more agreeable, and
Yeah.
when you're on birth control, you're attracted to people who are more agreeable. If you're a
Yeah.
disagreeable female on birth control, then maybe you wouldn't find that likely.
Right.
But then again, on birth control, you'd probably be agreeable. By
But I just reject this idea that in order for you to rightfully either be attracted to somebody or want to be with somebody, you two must possess all the characteristics that they possess. So, like, okay, a woman who finds a rich man attractive, is it wrong that she finds a man attractive because of his wealth, even if she herself is not wealthy? Or what about a woman who finds a professional athlete or an actor or a musician attractive because of his status, but she has absolutely no status? She's not a pro athlete, she's not an actor, she's not a musician.
Usually
So, like, this
people
idea
tend to-
that well, this idea that there needs to be perfect reciprocity, a word that we used previously in the conversation, or perfect symmetry in our, where we fall in the world, I think it doesn't make sense.
I think people usually tend to date within their dating pool. Like, you're not, like, a pro athlete isn't really gonna, like, go for me, you know?
Actually, I would say, like, pro athletes be dating some normal fucking.
I mean, I would tend to
chicks, like-
disagree. I mean, like, I'm autistic. I have, like, literally. Look.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah. No, but I'm like completely weird as. Like,
just
not
stick
to
the
be
mic that way.
like quirky or anything, but like I'm a fucking loser. Like, I like video games. I'm cooped up. Like I just like to play video games. I'm cooped up in my room all the time, and then I ended up scoring some guy who's an absolute Chad. Like, he's like, I don't know. He's like completely fucking normal, and I think I'm kind of like. Like, I could say it. You said we could say it if we had the past. I mean, I ended up dating someone who, like, essentially, like, we have nothing to do with each other, and it's working out pretty fine. I mean, we have a lot in common.
What's argument? What is your argument?
No, I'm just saying. I don't know. I just.
So you're
wanna-
saying, like, because you're, like, R-slurred, that you should only date other R-slurred people?
No. It's not like that. I'm
That's
saying,
so
like,
nice of you.
like, people, like, don't always date within their pool. Like, this guy's, like, awesome. Like, he's, like, completely normal.
Oh my
like,
God.
he,
Go ahead.
Can I say something?
ahead.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, I honestly, like, it's totally fine if your standards are, like, not similar to what you provide. For me, I just can't stand people who are like, I want this, and this from a partner, but they bring nothing to the table. I just don't think that it makes any sense. I feel like you want the relationship to be fair in what you can provide for each other. So I think it makes sense to, like, if you're going to require all these things from your partner, you should probably have some other things that you're yourself offering.
Okay, so this this whole thing stemmed from, we were initially talking about age gap. That stemmed from the age gap thing.
We didn't finish.
I don't know
going
how
around the
we.
table.
What's that?
We didn't finish going around the table.
On
The biggest age gap.
Oh, what was yours?
Okay,
Did you go? I think you said
I did, yeah, 6 years.
6 years. What about you?
Mine was 7, but the person I was with before him, it was 6, so it kind of was like my gateway into 7, and that person lied about their age. So I found out from a background check. They told me they were only 2 years older. My friend looked up their hockey
You guys got
stats,
some
found out they
crazy
were
ass story.
30 at the time. Yeah,
So
so I
what
kind of
was-
got
what was
tricked
the
into
gap?
that. Before that, I had only dated someone like 1 year older than
What
me,
was the
maybe
gap?
2. It was 6 years. I was
Wow.
23. He was like 30. 23.
Okay. Well, okay.
I
you're-
think mine was either 2 or 3 years.
What about you?
I was always
4.
the older
4.
one.
What about you?
2 up, 2 down.
2 up, 2 down. Okay. all
I
right.
like that.
But okay, so I mean, it's like, so okay, you think it's predatory,
Depending on the situation, absolutely.
depending on the situation.
Well, I think if
Let
you
me
have to
ask
lie
you-
about it, yeah.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, if you're lying about it, that's sus.
I mean, I think some women seek out older men, and it's like, why are they, trying to make a...
Not Brian. He seeks out older women.
No, a lot of women.
lost
I mean,
seek out-
I'll date young.
I mean,
I'll
a lot
date
of
older,
women seek
whatever.
out older men just purely for financial gain. Like, a lot of women, I want a sugar daddy, I want someone this old, but then they turn it around and say, like, oh, woe is me, I'm being groomed,
I think
whatever.
a transactional relationship is very different than
Yeah,
what
but
we're
that's
talking
like
about.
the
No girl is
financial
getting a
abuse,
sugar daddy and it's like,
financial-
oh, he groomed me.
No, but
because
what
it's-
about like DILFs? Like, oh, he's such a DILF. I want to date someone like, oh, I have daddy issues. I'm gonna date someone who's 32. I'm like 19. But then all of a sudden they just go back on it and be like, oh, that was absolutely predatory. But like, you were the one who put yourself in that situation, seeking someone like that.
Boy, I think it really
Accountability.
has to do with how the relationship goes and the dynamic of the relationship, the environment of the relationship, because it's like, no girl is just like, oh, like getting with an older guy and then is like straight out of the relationship pissed and is like, oh, like he groomed me. No, it like obviously no girl is like saying they got groomed just to say that and for sympathy. Like that doesn't just happen.
Also,
I
I think
I think a lot of people
Have you
refuse
heard that?
I think a lot of women and men too, but mostly women refuse to take accountability when it comes to stuff like that, and they often like to victimize themselves.
I mean, I think you've said a lot of times that it's pretty much the fault of the woman
I'm
in
not
every
saying
single
it's the fault. I'm
situation.
literally-
We've talked
No,
about
no, I'm saying-
you've put accountability on the
quiet.
woman every single time.
I'm saying we as women should take accountability. That's what I'm saying. We should take
So
accountability.
you're saying it's a 19-year-old's fault?
Literally,
Instead of
like,
40-year-old
the-
man.
it's a
And you're saying it's her
19-year-old.
fault? If she's supposedly a child, she's supposedly a teenager, it's her fault?
I'm not saying it's her fault, but
Well,
I
she's
think
an
I'm
That's
adult.
the way you're
Yeah.
putting
I'm
it,
saying
though.
we should
She's
take
an adult.
accountability for certain situations.
So we
So
should
she doesn't
take
know better.
accountability
She-
if we're being financially abused. We should take
what
accountability if we
she's
give up
saying.
our.
That's not
this
what
is-
I'm
I've
saying.
grown a
I
lot.
feel like
Oh, thank
you're
you.
grabbing my words by the and twisting it hard right here. I'm saying
I've
I'm-
grown a lot since I was 18. I'm definitely not the same person I was when I was 18. If I were to get into a relationship when I was 18, I would definitely come out of it and be like, what the heck was that? Because like she said, what does that man have in common with me?
Can we
I
take
am
accountability though?
You're expecting an 18-year-old to take accountability for a 40-year-old man
that
coming
man
after
knows
them?
better. That man has
there are
had more
certain
life
situations-
experiences.
there are certain situations where, hey, it might be the man's fault. It might be the man's fault. But there are also situations that we personally should take accountability for, like seeking out older men purely for monetary gain or because we're attracted to them. I personally am not attracted to them, but some women are attracted to older men because they didn't have a father figure in their life. That could be one reason, or it could just be merely attraction. I think we should take more accountability rather than coming out 5 years later and victimizing ourselves. And obviously there are predatory men. There are a lot of predatory men and there are a lot of predatory women. But I'm just saying in the situations where we need to take accountability, we need to take accountability.